Welcome everyone to Expanding Your Consciousness. And this will be our last video before the summer break, spring and summer, I guess you'd say. And then we'll resume in September. But I thought a good topic for this one would be reflecting, right? Taking time to reflect. And so that could be taking time to reflect on your own life, taking time to reflect even on your day. And also, I thought as a group, we could look at some of the videos we've done that's on our YouTube channel, Expanding Your Consciousness, and reflect on some of those videos too. So before we do that, though, I did want Kelly to express her views on reflecting, simply because Kelly is in another province and it's late there and she has to get really early for work. So she said, look, I can only be here for maybe 15, 20 minutes. So Kelly, any comments about our topic?
I think it's a really good topic because I know this year it's been a lot of reflecting this year, just in the sense of where things are going and how things are moving forward and things like that. So there's a lot of I am reflecting more on my day and on how things are progressing and things like that. So and I feel that that this has been a really good group in the sense of we've accomplished things and we've discussed really interesting topics. So I think reflecting as a group is really interesting and a good thing to do.
Yes, and when I first started this, it was an opportunity for people to share stories about unusual experiences they've had that have gone beyond the five senses. And then it's kind of branched out into other areas, like we've looked at spiritual teachers and even spiritual teachers in this group. And also we've looked at a wide variety of things, like how music and movies and books can expand our consciousness as well. So it's a broad topic. It can go in any direction. I also like the fact that I think, Brent, you were the one that suggested having open forums. So those open forums have really opened us up to sharing our thoughts and views. And so, yeah, it's a great opportunity to reflect on that. Any other comments? Yeah, Kenny?
I'd like to ask what reflection means. I'm not so sure we're all on the same page. At least I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Okay. All right. To me, it's actually, it can be a couple of things, but I think of when we've done certain things in our lives. If I think of my whole life and I reflect back on things I did in work or just, in my relationships with others and that, it's looking at what did I learn from those experiences. And even through your day, if there's conflict with someone, it doesn't even have to be conflict. It can be, having a great exchange with someone. And you reflect on that and think about, why do you feel good about that? Or why do you feel negative about it? Whatever. So I think it's our thought patterns. I don't know if I answered your question, Kenny.
Let me paraphrase. That's like, so reflection is partly remembering and partly analyzing what you remember. Is that right?
Yes, and I think part of the like the analyzing of it can relate to our feelings too, right? It's not just all mental, but what we remember, those feelings we remember from the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're reflecting about we're trying to look at ourselves through those experiences by remembering them, and you get a perspective maybe of who you were then and who you are now, what changes have happened and why, and what how's that all working for you.
It actually reminds me a bit of what Brent, or a lot of what Brent's been talking about, right?
Mhm.
When you talk aloud to yourself and ask yourself, why do I feel this way, right? Where did that come from? That to me would be a form of reflection.
Mhm.
And comments, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the kind of thing where like I can do it right now. I mean, I'm just, you know, aware of the fact that that something's here. There's consciousness that's present, and it's somehow aware of its own existence, which is a really interesting thing to think about. Like, how in the world can something know it exists itself? It's really you can stand in front of a mirror and see a reflection, but the mirror by which consciousness knows of its own existence is like, how is that happening? So it's an inner kind of a viewpoint where you're not looking outwardly, you're looking inwardly, and what you see is what shows up in your consciousness. And whatever consciousness is that you can know, whatever you are that you can know, that shows up in consciousness. So we're limited to knowing any kind of anything about ourselves by the fact that if it doesn't show up in consciousness, we don't know it exists. So only those aspects of consciousness that show up within consciousness can be seen by consciousness as consciousness. So we're limited to that. So whatever that is, but if that's something that you're interested in, I mean, if you want to get to know how you tick, if you want to get to know like what's going on, mostly we aren't really taught to do this in life in general. But if you get interested in like, who am I and what am I doing here and all those kinds of things, then the attention of consciousness goes inwardly, and then whatever arises, whatever feelings arise, whatever thoughts arise that can elucidate in the moment what that is. And if you use a technique where you're actually talking to yourself out loud, that causes the mind to slow down from it's all over the map kind of thing. If you're focused on what you're speaking, then the mind has got to be slowing down to the speed of talking. So that focalizes the attention and makes a magnifying glass for consciousness to look at something in a different way than normally that it would. And so there's something behind the scenes that we can't quite get to that I find extremely interesting, because everything seems to come from within, in the sense that if you have an experience, the feelings that you have about that experience, the thoughts that you have about that experience arise from within you. So the important things in life are coming from within, and finding that out is great, because you stop blaming other people for causing you to feel certain ways, because the triggering agent isn't really the issue. It's like your emotional reaction that's the important thing. So then the sense of responsibility starts coming into vogue, where, you know, if I'm having these emotional reactions and I'm blaming somebody else outside for it, is that really the proper thing to be doing? So then just the sense of responsibility starts pervading there, and that's very helpful. And then, you know, we hear all these things about, you know, the world out there looks like it's going on inside you. You know, the outside is a reflection of what's inside. So how you judge things and how you relate to things has a lot to do with your own self-reflective process and what you know about yourself.
And that varies, right? We all have our own little universe or big universe, whatever way you want to put it, right? And I guess that's why too, when there is conflict, say with yourself and someone else, that person's view of the conflict can often be quite different from what you perceived, right? And it can be the other way too. Like you may have done something that, well, you know, was generous or kind, and they thought it was like incredibly generous and kind, you know what I mean? Like they really appreciate it so much, and you think, well, that was no big deal, but to them it was, right? They want to express it.
Or they missed it.
Pardon me?
Or they just missed it. You did something nice and it didn't affect them, and they kind of missed it. Or they could have disagreed with the way you did. I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, it can go in so many ways. This is why too, like when I used to supervise people, I used to say to them, be aware of, you know, your interaction with others and people witnessing that interaction, because often that conflict isn't between just you and another person. There are other people involved that are witnessing it, so they're impacted by the behavior that's going on. Anyway, Kenny, any comments?
No, I have a whole new topic to
Oh,
bring up, but I think I better, I'll wait.
no,
Oh, that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something we could go to later if you want to bring it up now, or if people feel they don't want, go on reflection, we can make this a shorter video, right? And then go
Yes.
into another topic.
It is within the concept of reflection, but what it is contemplative meditation. So
Ah.
when we review things in our mind, whether it's a happening or an opinion or any idea, when I review it in my mind, I define that as contemplation. I'm contemplating something. And during that, if I'm able to do that in the state of meditation, then every once in a while I get one of those aha moments where all of a sudden, whoa, now I get it. I see what I did wrong, or I see what I did right, or whatever it is that you see,
Yeah.
that registers as an intellectual realization and accompanied by a big emotion. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I hope to do for a living, I'm going to be a contemplative meditator. And if I can ever do that, then I think, wow, I wonder what it's like to live that way. And what we might be talking about when we talk about reflections is we're contemplating our inner world, not what's out there. So what's out there affects the inner world.
Yes.
What we're really, when we're reflecting, we're not reflecting on the merit, who we're going to vote for at the next election or anything. We're reflecting on our own reaction to the world out there.
You got it.
Yep. Right.
I agree. Guys, I'm gonna have to step
Okay.
out now.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you for
Um,
joining, Kelly.
No problem.
All right.
It's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Good night, Kelly.
And
right.
we'll start
Bye.
again in the fall. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Faith, do you have any comments?
Oh boy, I mean, that's a loaded topic. Reflection. I can't really think of anything right now. I mean,
Yeah, I guess, this friend, he's now passed on. But Kenny, where Peterborough, Ontario is, right? He lived in Peterborough. He was born and raised there. That was his whole, community. And he never really lived anywhere outside of maybe, 5 blocks around his family home and that, right? But I remember having a conversation with him when we look at old photos of, like when he was younger and that. And, I was saying, I find that I don't feel like the same person I was, last year, or even, several months ago and all that. He said, that's strange. I think I'm the same person I was even, way back when I was a kid. So it's interesting. He was very much, and he wasn't into spiritual practices, though he did take some courses at Trent University on Eastern philosophy and I think, religious studies and all that. But he really, he just thought of himself as Bob and the same Bob throughout his whole life. So
I
have you?
guess, yeah, I could reflect on who I am now compared to who I was like in my younger years. I feel like I've outgrown a lot of old thinking patterns. I've overcome a lot of obstacles in my life, like unbelievable obstacles. Like I can't really get into it here, but you'd be shocked. And even within the last 5 years, unreal. And I've just been, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, in The Terminator, that one. Even to the last, wire, he was still going, kind of like that. And it feels like I'm, what's that expression, enjoying the fruits of my labor, like, and also reflecting on like your perception of your external world versus your internal world. And can I still have joy even in a less than ideal environment, kind of thing. And I'm shocked at those times when I'm on my way home from work and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I, as an example, the other night, I just started laughing hysterically for no reason. Just like it was just so much joy, and I was so happy and blissful, and I don't know, it's just all this happiness arose in me, and particular reason it was just like this abstract joy, overwhelming, and it went on for about 10 minutes. Could not stop laughing. So, and then other times I'm crying, so yeah, reflecting back on how I used to be, I really come a long way. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way inside, but I have to say that I am a totally different person and a lot more mature, and I still have a lot to learn in life. A lot of things I want to do. I'm definitely not done yet. So yeah, if I had to reflect on anything, I guess that in my personal life, that would be a lot of the positive stuff, like I'm feeling more safe now to feel what I'm feeling, kind of thing. So it feels like I'm going through a healing of my own, a healing, clearing, kind of things. And lots of joy coming with it. So
Was there anything that triggered the joy, or it just arose?
it's just, I have no idea. It's just spontaneous. It's just abstract, like the Buddha talked about, when you're on the path of enlightenment, you know that you've hit a milestone when you feel what you're feeling and there's nothing to attach it to, right? It's just abstract. There's no reason. It's just abstract, like crying, or like, but the crying is like, it's not a heavy kind of crying. It's like a release, kind of purging, clearing, a healing kind of, that sort of emotion. And it's also abstract anger, no reason. It's just arising to pass away. So yeah, I really, like, I can't pinpoint any specific reason, and I feel like I don't want to analyze it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be here all day trying to figure it out. I'm getting out of my head. I guess that's a good sign. I'm getting out of my head more and into my heart, into my feelings, into my realness, my more authentic self, I guess, as the saying goes, yeah. So that's a good thing, I think.
So Faith, do you feel better now than you did when you started to talk about this?
Yeah, because I was talking to my friend last night who is a psychologist. He's a very brilliant man, very wise, much older than I am. And I said, and then because I came across a YouTube video about whether they have psychologists on this YouTube videos, right? About dysregulated emotions. Like, I guess they put a label on, but then they describe specific scenarios, like, and I didn't really fit into that category. So I explained the situation to my friend. He said, no, that's nothing. That's a good, you're not dysregulated at all. You're normal. Like, that's very healthy. Like, it's really good. It's positive. Just allow it to come. So not without judging it, right? Because then I started putting a judgment on. I was like, is something wrong with me? Why? No, it's absolutely not. It's a good thing. And just to allow, this is a new thing in my life. This is the first time really that I have been, experiencing this. And it feels like it is a letting go. It is a joyful time, and a release, and purging and clearing.
Do you feel better now since when you just started talking?
Perhaps, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling that much different or down.
I got the feeling that the more you talked about it, the better you were feeling.
Oh, okay.
Just now.
Yeah, it feels good to clarify it in my mind, I guess, to get more clarity and about it, and more acceptance, that it is okay. I'm okay. Like, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, because I think society puts, and the medical community puts labels on people who are of a certain inclination, like in shamanic communities, in people with schizophrenia are considered shamans. You know, they have insight and access to the spirit world, and but here it's called schizophrenia. You know, so yeah, kind of like that. So it's about acceptance, right? And here that it's they treat it with drugs, you know, schizophrenia, right?
Yeah.
And
Uh, I remember a story when I studied anthropology, and it was about this psychologist in Uganda, and he was from that culture, and they wanted to build a psychiatric hospital there, right? And close the old building because it was in such bad shape. And he went home to his wife. He said, you know, I just don't know what are we going to do with the patients who are in the building right now. And she said, why not put them in the village? And she mentioned the village, right? And ask the people, you know, if they would help them. And when he did that, he noticed a big difference in them, because first of all, the village people took them under their wings and guided them, helped them, right? They didn't label them that there was something wrong. And also they were with healthy people. They weren't with people who had some sort of mental disorder. So that story always stuck in my mind, because, you know, it really shows you that just some of the simple methods, right, can make a big difference.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Faith.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a meditation center in India dedicated specifically for people with psychiatric illness that have been diagnosed. And it's the Vipassana meditation, and it's run by a psychiatrist. So obviously they have capacity, right? So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Brent, you're good.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, what could be more obvious than not keeping people that have disorders like that around each other to reflect off each other and get worse? I mean, that just makes so much sense to do it differently than that.
Yeah. I know in the previous video, remember we talked about people in prisons too, right?
Yeah, same
You know,
thing.
if you can guide them along, you know, and yeah, it makes a big difference. So yeah.
So it sounds, Faith, like you're doing some self-reflection that's focusing on something really real and important and good about yourself, and getting away from whatever labels people have put on you, and you're feeling better in the process of doing that. So I don't see any difference between that and what I do, really. It's just, you know, just talking to myself about how I'm feeling in the moment. And it just, because that's how you see through things, you know, that's how you get to the bottom line and get beneath all the identities that keep you thinking that you're something that you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, I never actually had any labels. I never had any mental illness or anything like that. I was diagnosed with PTSD many years ago. And so, but, you know, I've been working on that with meditation, with many different kinds of healing, with, you know, my career, my studies, and just use life to, you know, just getting involved with life and pursuing my goals to overcome a lot. And now it feels like I'm becoming even more wakeful, more, you know, attuned and to my own inner abilities, my own intuition, just everything, and all the good stuff, and some of the bad too, obviously. Yeah, it seems like a mercy or a grace from God or whatever, the universe, that when you experience the negative, then the positive comes in equal or even greater force. And that seems to be what's happening with me. Like my consciousness, I've recognized in this last few weeks, my consciousness has actually expanded. Like I've noticed that in myself. Like it's like, wow, that's amazing. And even in my work, I've had confirmation of some psychic stuff, very clear, unmistakable, confirmed, very specific. And so, yeah, so a lot of the gifts, a lot of the abilities are coming up stronger too. now it's like, okay, what's next? Public speaking, and branching out, and I feel like something's coming, like a message that I have and to share with on a more broader scale, I don't really know yet, but I've had visions of speaking in front of people, and I've had that for years now. And so, but I know I need to do a lot more work yet before I'm there, but maybe it's not that far away, So, but I used to be very shy. I didn't used to talk very much at all. Very, withdrawn, and that's changed too over the years.
It'd be interesting because I was like that too. And it'd be interesting to know whether Dave and Kenny and Brent were the same way. Because I think sometimes, we come in knowing certain things. So we just keep quiet because, I heard someone say that once. Sometimes these quiet people are just, they seem to be in tune to something. And so they don't want to cause a big fuss or be, on stage or too, outgoing about things, right? But I love those people that are extroverts, right? They can change the energy in the room. If you've ever, been, say, in a gathering or at a party, and all of a sudden an extrovert comes in and he's entertaining everyone, right? I mean, they do, add something to the dynamics of the group.
Oh, yeah, I remember as when I was young, quite young, I was introverted and just seemed to be, very, within, drawn, not, I think I was doing a lot of thinking. I don't remember, being afraid to express myself because I would, but yeah, I remember being a lot more introverted when I was young.
Now Dave is a social butterfly.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I'm just adding to your question there. So if anybody else wanted to answer.
I always felt that something was wrong when I was younger. There was something wrong in the family. There was something wrong with the church. There was just something wrong everywhere. I think it was the lack of oneness. I was born into it, and I just had this feeling about it. But then the people around me, they just weren't that interested. They were very identified and preoccupied, and they just didn't have that. And then I was very insecure because I didn't learn how to deal with my emotions when I was a kid because my parents were not open at all.
Yeah.
I can remember one time my mom was in a playful mood and my dad was reading the newspaper in his favorite chair, and she went over there and started messing around with him. And he said something like, not right now, honey, not in front of the kids. And there we were, the two kids, and something about that hit me the wrong way. And I thought, why would you want to, and then I realized what happened. He was into his newspaper, and he didn't want to be bothered with her in that moment. So he made up a story, but the story he made up was a terrible thing to say out loud,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I think all of us as kids, we've got some stories we could tell about what we saw that wasn't quite right.
Yeah, exactly.
Someday we'll learn to get our cues from children rather than not.
Yeah, I think I was like that very young, right? Just thinking like, what is this? Like everything seemed foreign. And I mentioned to Dave a couple of nights ago, one of the hardest things for me to deal with, especially when I was a teenager, is I'd be talking to a friend and she would be complaining about another friend, okay? Like on and on and on and on. And then that friend would come in and she'd be very nice to her and they're chums again. And that would go on. And I thought, it just did not make sense to me. I actually had to learn to be like a gossip and complain because it was just so foreign to me. Anyway, you just pick up these bad habits. Kenny, any comments?
I gotta tell you, I'm having a trouble following this discussion.
Well, contemplation and no.
We're jumping around.
I remember reading once where a woman said, I don't believe in meditation. I believe in contemplation. She didn't believe in, kind of, well, there's different types of meditation, but I guess
Yeah.
she was thinking, emptying the mind kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
She thinks, or she thought that you should actually reflect on certain things, thoughts.
I think meditation is more observing what is without reacting or making an effort not to react.
So if it seemed like we went a bit away from reflection, it really wasn't, because people are reflecting on, past experiences, right?
Reflecting on their reflections.
Yeah, reflecting on the reflection.
House of Mirrors. Yeah. Well, that's at the, an element of what we're always talking about is finding, ourselves, our consciousness within. And that's, an element of that is reflection, gets the ball rolling.
When you talk about it, Kenny, it seems like you understand what self-reflection is, but every once in a while you jump in and say, I'm not sure I follow what self-reflection is. I mean, I think you already know what it is, really, don't you? Just
Yeah, I do. And
or is it the value of it that's got you stumped?
Maybe he's just so much in the moment that he just can't get it. Maybe that's it.
or could be out of the moment. I often, when I look back at myself and I'm one of those who likes to learn, then reflect. So I had a teacher once who talked about the concept of naivety. And I said, oh boy, that rings my bell. I think I am really naive. And so when you're naive, you just don't get things. And maybe that's what was going on with me in the last, say, 5 minutes or so. I was listening and thinking, what? So maybe that's me being naive. Just that was my specialty for a long time.
Or maybe you're in a really deep place and you've got a beat all over the place. And
There you go. Okay, yeah, I'll take that one.
You know.
That sounds good. Thanks, Brent. I'm okay after all. Oh, good. So isn't it interesting do we need the approval of others? So if you look back at your life and say, well, when you're a little kid, most little kids always want mommy's approval. But now, do we really? I mean, our society looks at it as a weakness that we're somehow having other people's approval is not, I don't know, somehow there's something wrong with it.
Well, when I think of my mother, who had 7 girls, one actually died when she was 11 months, but so 6 girls she raised. And of course, all different capabilities, right? Some of us, were in these careers, and some entered politics, and one entered politics, that sort of stuff. But I just remember, because I'd take her for Sunday drives, and she said, I'm just so proud of all of you.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that what we did for a living or anything. It was just that she felt that she had raised really good girls. I don't mean that, like in a conservative way or anything. I just mean she just felt that she was happy with, how we turned out, so to speak.
You had no brothers?
No brothers.
Wow.
So my dad, imagine all these teenagers, and how would that man get into the bathroom? We were putting makeup on and everything. One bathroom. Good thing we're out in the country if you had to go. Anyway, but yeah, but he loved his girls too. My dad, really loved his girls. So I reflect on my life and I go, wow, I was, my parents weren't, really well educated. My mother had a grade 8 education, my father a grade 10 education, but they were good people, right? So I think, there's something to be learned from that. And as a friend of mine said, well, were they good enough parents? I said they were good enough parents. So,
Sounds like they were great parents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they were, yeah, they were. So,
Yeah.
Sweet.
They never played favorites or anything like that.
oh, all the time. Especially with the oldest, right? You know, they're the closest, but you know, you kind of get past that. I think you get past the jealousy and all that, you know, as a kid. And, you know, as you get older, you start to see your parents more as just people, right? And you build relate. But I was very close to my father when I was younger. It was only when I, you know, reached my, you know, late 30s into my 40s and that I was, you know, coming closer to my mother. So,
Do you and Dave have any kids?
yeah, he's 350 pounds and he's 51 years old.
Yeah.
His name's
Right.
Dave
Oh,
too.
I guess you'll be
probably.
editing that part out.
He's not genetically connected to us, but anyway.
He's the fellow Diane cares for, and, you know, way
Oh.
manages this, you know, yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, we think of him as our kid, our 350-pound kid.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Gotta
Yeah,
take
he's
care
a
of
good person. He's a good person. We'll take him with us on our travels so he can see his family in Ontario. So yeah,
Oh, you've decided to take him with you.
yeah, yeah.
So when are you going to have your own kids?
I don't know. It won't be this life, Dave. I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Anyway. But anyway,
You could adopt.
and, yeah, but also it's yeah, I think when I look at the stage we're in our lives, yeah, I don't think that's something I'd want to do. I'm already
Yeah.
busy with a lot of things. So,
Yeah.
but you know, it's interesting you mention that, Brent, because I do think what made me different from my siblings was the fact that I did a lot of volunteer work. I don't know why. Even my dad kind of questioned, why are you doing all this? And I had no answer for him. I just did it. You know, so you know, I'd be working full time and taking courses, and then I'd, you know, work as a cook at Mission Services in Hamilton, you know, working with guys with drug and alcohol issues, right? I look at my volunteered, you know, working with people with physical disabilities. And yeah, I do think that helps to build your patience, and it really helps to add to your character or your identity to some degree. But I just am glad that I had those experiences.
So you had a strong desire to do that kind of stuff.
Yes, and you know what was interesting about it? I the mission services, so the men's residence, I was taking women's studies part-time at the university. And I thought, you know what? I want more balance in my life. So I was walking by Mission Services on James Street North, and I walked in and I said, do you need any volunteers? And the guy said, sure, we're actually looking for someone to come in on Saturdays and cook. I said, I could do that for, you know, 4 or 5 hours. And it was a great experience. The guys, first of all, it's nice for them to have like a female there because it was very much male dominated, very few women, you know, there working or anything. And like I was meeting people who at one time were like executives, you know, in companies and very successful. And, you know, all of a sudden they lost, you know, their job, their wife, their kids, you know. So it really, I actually helped, I really felt that made me more compassionate to people.
Is this group the same kind of thing?
I think so. I think what I like about this group is the fact that we can express ourselves and share ideas, and even ideas for videos that we do. For example, when I think of the one on music, I wasn't expecting rock and roll kind of stuff, right? But it shows you, it broadens your idea of what spiritual music or consciousness expanding music is, right? And even when we shared on, you know, books that we read, and you know, some of the movies as well, but just, you know, some of the ideas we talked about, I think it actually has brought us as a group very close together because we are sharing much of ourselves in these videos, and it's actually helping those that watch it. That's why I do, you know, want to spend time to promote the videos more, because I think it is important that we share them with others. And, you know, I look at the ones that we did, like yours, Brand, and Kenny's as well on water, Brent on Talking Aloud. And they are getting attention, right? People are seeking this sort of thing. So it's just building it more so they have easier access to it.
Mhm.
And I'm learning a lot right now because I'm helping out someone. And it's all about, you know, promoting his work. So by helping him, I'm learning how to promote my own work.
Can I make a suggestion for a future topic?
Sure.
Maybe a series? Okay, forming intentional communities.